There's something incredibly attractive about a woman who knows how to create a moment, then gracefully step back. The kind of woman who enters a conversation like a spark. She lights up the room, brings energy, adds depth, makes you feel like the moment matters. And then she disappears. Not in a dramatic way, but in a confident way. You wonder where she went. You think about what just happened. That's the power of not staying long enough to become predictable. The most magnetic women don't flood your world. They leave an impression, then let you feel the absence. And it's in that space where interest turns into desire. Men are wired for pursuit, not just physically, but emotionally. When you're always available, always replying instantly, always saying yes, it sends a message that he doesn't need to earn more of you. When something is too accessible, it loses its edge. But when a woman knows how to engage deeply, then detach lightly, she creates tension. Not the kind that makes people feel ignored, but the kind that makes them think, I need to see her again. That spark moment plants a seed, and it grows when you're not in the room. This isn't about playing games. It's about pacing emotional intimacy in a way that builds value over time. Think about the last time someone made you feel something meaningful and then didn't follow it up with pressure. They let you feel it. They didn't rush to keep it alive. That kind of restraint is rare. Most people try to capitalize on a moment too quickly. But people chase what they're not quite done feeling. If you constantly give someone more of you before they've truly appreciated what you gave the first time, they get full, and not in a good way. You want to be like the opening scene of a great movie. Captivating, promising, but making them need to see the next act. When you're the spark, you don't try to fill the silence with more words or messages. You don't feel the need to double text just because he took a bit to respond. You're not performing for attention. You're creating quality exchanges and letting them breathe. And here's the truth. If a man is truly interested, he'll notice the space. He'll want more. He'll lean forward. But if you keep giving him more before he asks, you'll never know if the connection was real or just convenient. The woman who lets him come to her isn't passive. She's powerful. She's already whole. She's not waiting. She's observing. Men fall for women who make them feel something and then allow them to miss that feeling. It's the pause that keeps him thinking. The way you smiled at something and didn't explain why. The way you looked at him and then turned your focus elsewhere. These little details, these moments of restraint, they create emotional curiosity. And curiosity is the foundation of romantic pursuit. Most men don't chase because they're unsure how they feel. They don't chase because they haven't been given the chance to feel anything yet. You become unforgettable when you stop trying to be constantly remembered. Let go of the idea that being wanted is about giving more. It's not about texting more, showing up more, sharing more of your life. It's about giving just enough of a glimpse that he sees the light and then letting him take the next step. And if he doesn't, that's your answer. But if he does, if he leans in, asks more, initiates, you've earned something far more valuable than his attention. You've sparked his effort. Because here's the secret. The chase isn't about games. It's about emotional pacing. You're not making him work. You're giving him room to want to. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who is already fulfilled before love walks into her life. A woman whose days are already rich with passion, purpose, and peace doesn't send out signals of desperation. She radiates contentment. She doesn't need someone to come in and fix her world because she's already built one that feels good to live in. This kind of self-sufficiency isn't cold or detached, it's magnetic. It tells a man, if you want to be part of this, you need to add, not rescue. And the truth is, men chase what they admire, not what they pity. A lot of people confuse vulnerability with neediness. But there's a big difference between sharing your truth and leaning on someone to be your solution. When you live a life that feels good on its own, you shift from needing a man to save you, to allowing one to enhance what's already beautiful. That change in energy is everything. It removes pressure from the dynamic. It's not about needing a relationship to feel okay. It's about wanting the right one because it fits into a life you're proud of. And when a man sees that strength, he doesn't pull away, he steps up. When a woman is in love with her own life, she becomes selective. She doesn't chase chemistry if there's no consistency. She doesn't cling to attention just because it's flattering. She has things to do, people to see, goals that matter. And that grounded energy is rare. It's refreshing. It tells him that you are already complete, that he doesn't have to constantly prove his worth to keep your attention. And ironically, that's what makes him want to prove it even more. Because people value what is not afraid to walk away. The idea that someone should rescue you may sound romantic in theory, but in reality, it sets up an uneven partnership. When someone enters your life and feels like they're constantly patching up wounds or managing emotional fires, the connection starts to feel like a burden. But when they enter and see joy, depth, passion, and growth, they're inspired to match that energy. Your lifestyle becomes a silent invitation. It says, "This is what life can feel like beside me." And if he's emotionally mature, he won't just want to watch it, he'll want to step into it with you. You don't have to constantly talk about your goals and your journey. Just live them. Let your actions tell the story. Let him see that you have friends who energize you, habits that center you, ambitions that push you. A woman with emotional momentum is irresistible. It's not about being busy for the sake of it. It's about being invested in your own development. That kind of energy makes him realize he's not competing with your loneliness. He's meeting you at your highest level. And if he's not ready for that level, he'll back off. And that's not rejection. That's clarity. A strong life creates boundaries without needing to speak them. You won't tolerate inconsistent behavior because your time is already taken by things that matter. You won't fall for potential because you're living in purpose. And that doesn't mean you're closed off. It means you're intentional. That's where true confidence lives, in the quiet knowledge that you bring more than your presence. You bring a lifestyle, a mindset, an emotional climate that uplifts the room. And if a man wants to be in that space, he'll rise to meet it, not ask you to lower your standards to accommodate him. There's something undeniably powerful about a woman who doesn't rush to reveal everything about herself. The woman who knows that sharing is important, but timing is just as important. She doesn't withhold out of fear. She simply understands that mystery isn't about hiding, it's about unfolding. And that unfolding is what keeps a man coming back. When you leave just enough unsaid, just enough unanswered, you give him something to lean into. Curiosity creates motion, and motion is what leads to pursuit. Men are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. That doesn't mean you have to act distant or aloof. It means you don't need to narrate your entire life story in the first few conversations. You can be warm, you can be open, but still leave some room for imagination. When you share a story and pause before the ending, or when you drop a detail and let him ask about it later, you create an experience. You invite him to step further into your world instead of handing him the whole map from the start. The truth is, what people work for, they value. When you give someone the space to wonder a little, to feel just a touch of mystery around who you are, it activates a part of the brain that wants to solve the puzzle. And not because you're trying to be a puzzle, but because you've layered your personality in a way that reveals itself over time. This kind of connection grows steadily, not instantly. You want him to feel like there's always something new to learn about you, even after weeks or months of knowing you. Being mysterious doesn't mean playing cold or avoiding eye contact. It means that you're present without being overly available. It means you listen more than you speak at times, and when you do speak, it's thoughtful. You don't rush to fill every silence. You allow him to sit in the moment with you. You hold his gaze and then break it with purpose. These are the small things that say, "I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to connect," but only if you show up with presence too. What makes mystery attractive is the contrast it creates. When a woman is expressive but not overly revealing, fun but not trying too hard, engaging but still slightly unpredictable, she becomes unforgettable. Men remember how you made them feel in your presence, especially when they leave the interaction wanting just a little more. You don't need to dress things up or be overly clever. Your depth, your boundaries, your sense of timing, that's what creates the intrigue. The moment he thinks he has you all figured out is the moment interest begins to fade. Every time you choose to hold back just one story, to share one less detail, to give one compliment instead of 5, you're creating a rhythm. That rhythm gives him space to contribute. He can ask, follow up, invest. The woman who knows how to share slowly allows the man to lead at times, not because she lacks power, but because she has control. She doesn't give away all her mystery to gain approval. She knows that real connection is built in layers, and each layer requires presence, attention, and effort. There's also something elegant about not needing to over-explain yourself. You don't need to justify why you didn't reply right away or why you're unavailable at a certain time. Let your absence speak just as clearly as your presence. A woman who trusts her own rhythm makes others curious about it. When he sees you're not constantly trying to please or explain, he knows there's a whole world happening behind the scenes. And if he wants to be part of that world, he'll have to earn more than your attention. He'll have to earn your openness. Mystery thrives in balance. You can be emotionally open while still choosing your moments carefully. You can give him something real to connect to without laying out your entire heart in one night. It's not about being hard to read. It's about being someone worth discovering. You're not withholding love. You're valuing its weight. You're not creating distance. You're respecting the pace. The woman who understands this lives with a quiet kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't chase validation because she already feels rooted in who she is. There's something beautifully strong about a woman who knows how to pause. She doesn't rush to reply out of panic or react because of a fear of loss. She takes her time, reads the moment, and responds from a place of clarity instead of emotion. That quiet control isn't about detachment. It's about maturity. She's not ignoring him. She's choosing her energy carefully. Because when you respond instead of react, you don't just protect your peace, you raise your value. Men notice when you don't flinch at inconsistency. They feel it when you don't get pulled into chaos or drama. When he sends a vague message or goes quiet and you don't chase, question, or demand, it says something. It says you're calm in your own space. It says you don't build stories in your mind. You wait for reality to show itself. A woman who responds with stillness instead of fear speaks volumes without saying much. And that silence often echoes louder than any words could. When you react, you give away control. You become a mirror for his behavior instead of a mirror for your own standards. But when you respond, you give yourself a moment to decide, is this energy for me? That moment changes everything. Instead of replying from insecurity, you speak from value. You stop allowing someone else's pace to dictate your own. And suddenly, you're not just another woman chasing clarity. You're the woman who creates it by how you carry yourself. There's power in not answering a message that lacks effort. There's strength in waiting before replying to something that made you feel unsure. You don't need to match his confusion with your own. You can choose to observe. You can let the moment pass without turning it into a storm. The woman who doesn't react emotionally every time something shifts slightly becomes the one who sets the emotional tone. She's not trying to control the outcome. She's controlling her participation in it. This doesn't mean pretending not to care. It means caring about yourself enough to not overextend where you're not being met. If he pulls back, let him. If he stops calling, don't beg him to. When you give yourself space before responding, you show that your self-worth doesn't hinge on his next move. And that's incredibly rare because most people are reacting out of fear. Fear of loss, fear of silence, fear of rejection. But a confident woman reacts from purpose, not panic. Every relationship has moments of uncertainty. How you handle those moments says more than anything else. Do you spiral or do you stay grounded? Do you need to fix everything instantly or do you let time reveal what's real? Men remember the woman who kept her balance when things got shaky. They remember the one who didn't need to fill every silence with questions. They remember the strength it takes to respond with grace when it would have been easier to react with emotion. When you practice this, you stop being afraid of silence. You stop being afraid of pauses in communication, gaps in attention, or shifts in tone, because you know those things don't define your worth. You're not sitting by the phone waiting for a response. You're living your life. And that emotional distance becomes protection. You're not cold, you're steady. And that steadiness shows him you won't be dragged into uncertainty just because he hasn't figured out what he wants. You also learn to trust your own presence. You don't need to double down when someone seems distracted. You don't need to explain yourself repeatedly just to keep someone interested. If he pulls away and you keep your energy grounded, you give him the gift of noticing your absence. That's something many people never allow. They're too busy trying to hold on to someone who hasn't shown they're willing to hold on to. But a woman who pauses and responds creates space for truth to rise to the surface. There's something incredibly graceful about a woman who knows how to recognize effort, not just charm. She doesn't get pulled in by compliments or a strong opening line. She pays attention to consistency, presence, and the way someone shows up over time. Attention is easy to give, but investment takes energy, thought, and care. A man may notice her beauty in seconds, but if he wants her time, her softness, her presence, he knows it can't be earned through words alone. That quiet expectation creates a standard he instinctively respects. Real attraction deepens when a man feels like he's working towards something meaningful. And that doesn't mean you play hard to get. It means you only give more of yourself when he gives more of himself. You're not here to perform just because someone looked your way. You're here to connect, genuinely, mutually, and with intention. When you reward attention without effort, you teach people that your energy is easy to earn. But when you reward effort with warmth, presence, and availability, you teach them that depth is something that must be pursued with purpose. A woman who values herself doesn't confuse being seen with being valued. She knows the difference between someone who wants her in a moment and someone who wants to build moments with her. She doesn't confuse loud energy with reliable energy. A man who knows how to show up with consistency, who calls when he says he will, who makes plans and follows through, that's the kind of investment that deserves more of her. Not because she's playing games, but because her love is a gift that can only be unlocked through genuine action. The truth is, many people are excellent at starting. They know what to say. They know how to create excitement, but staying consistent, showing care without being prompted, asking meaningful questions, and remembering what matters to you, those are the signals of someone who isn't just attracted, but emotionally engaged. When you reserve your full presence for those moments of real effort, you protect your energy. You stop handing out emotional rewards for temporary performances. You teach people how to treat you, not by telling them, but by how you respond to what they offer. It feels empowering to give someone more when they've shown up for you emotionally, not just romantically. When a man reaches out because he genuinely wants to understand you, when he pays attention to how you feel, not just how you look, he's making an investment. And in return, your kindness feels earned. Your attention feels like a privilege, not a reaction. This creates a balanced emotional exchange. You're not giving more than you're receiving. You're growing something based on shared care, not just chemistry. And that's where the chase becomes meaningful. What often confuses the dynamic is when someone gives attention in bursts and you mistake that for interest. But interest without action is only a spark. It doesn't build anything lasting. If someone likes you but doesn't reach out, doesn't plan, doesn't take time to know you, you owe them nothing in return. You don't need to reply just because they remembered you after disappearing. You don't need to entertain someone's messages at midnight when they weren't available at noon. You're allowed to require consistency without apology. You're allowed to wait for real energy before offering yours. The most self-assured women don't panic when someone pulls away. They observe. They watch the pattern. If the effort fades, they don't chase. They shift their energy. Because the goal was never to be liked. It was to be loved well. And love that's built on real investment starts with small daily acts that show respect. You don't need to earn love through performance. You simply need to receive love that's shown through presence, not just praise. A man who's ready will prove it with his behavior, not just his words. Rewarding investment teaches the right men how to show up. It teaches them that you don't need grand gestures. You need consistency, that you value quality over quantity. That it's not about how much he texts you, it's about how intentional his words are. It's not about expensive dinners, it's about how engaged he is during the conversation. These small details build trust, And when you reward those things with deeper access to your time and energy, you create a loop where emotional growth is natural, not forced. This also gives you a clearer picture of who's really for you, because some people disappear when the game stops. When attention alone doesn't get a reaction, when effort is required, they lose interest. And that's a gift. Their exit makes room for someone whose attention is backed by intention. Someone who isn't trying to win you for the thrill of it, but someone who values who you are and is prepared to nurture that connection. That kind of man doesn't just give effort in the beginning, he builds momentum over time. You're not being high maintenance by requiring effort. You're being high awareness. You know what leads to something meaningful, and you don't get sidetracked by surface level flattery. The woman who waits to open up until she's seen real signs of care is often the one who experiences deeper, more respectful relationships, because she's not afraid of losing a man who didn't plan on staying. She's not afraid to say no to moments that don't align with her standards. She's not afraid of the quiet that follows when she stops responding to noise. There's also beauty in giving someone a chance to rise. Sometimes a man will test the waters to see what level of effort is accepted. If you reward minimal investment with full emotional access, he'll assume that's all it takes. But if you stay steady, kind, but firm, if you require just a little more thought, a little more care, he'll realize that you're not like the rest. And the right one will appreciate that. The right one will feel motivated by your standard, not intimidated by it. When you know your worth, you don't fear asking for more. You don't beg for consistency. You expect it. You don't seek validation. You embody it. Your energy becomes more grounded, more focused. You're no longer available for emotional crumbs. You want full meals, connection that nourishes, love that expands, effort that feels intentional. This doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're discerning. You're soft but not naive. You're warm, but you don't melt for empty effort. You respond to truth, to depth, to sincerity. And that's what makes the chase worth it, for you and for him.